Hey there, how's it going? Today we're going to try something a little bit different. If you watch art channels here on YouTube, you may have seen people do different kinds of challenges just to make art in different ways. There are pretty standard things like only using certain colors, and then there's some pretty weird ones out there too. Now, I enjoy watching these, and I thought, hey, I like making games under ridiculous circumstances. I mean, I already somewhat regularly make games in 3 hours live on my Twitch stream just for fun. I actually made a video about some of those games a while back if you'd like to check it out. There's a card up top, and while you're at it, don't forget to subscribe and click the bell thingy. That's how we make the YouTube robots happy. I do have to say, while fun, making games in short periods of time is pretty rough. There are just so many things to keep track of, and there are so many elements that are all interacting with each other, it's really easy for things to go wrong. To work at that kind of speed takes practice to get something good out of it at the end. I'm accustomed to the 3-hour time limit and had to scope for something like that. You could take a look here at the difference between an early 3-hour game I made and then one I did a lot more recently. Today though, I don't have much for this. I have made games in an hour before, but not consistently enough to really have a great grasp on that time frame. And 10 minutes and 30 minutes? Oh boy. Now, to be totally upfront and transparent, I have tried this challenge once before live on my Twitch stream, and it went okay to kinda bad. I was distracted by my Twitch chat and feeling a bit tired that day, and several other excuses that I'm making for having a subpar performance with that little time. So to take away all my excuses, I'm trying it again with the same basic game idea to see if I can pull it off a little bit better with more focus and less distractions. Because if there's anything I've learned since I started making games, it's that repetition is the key to understanding. And speaking of learning, this video is sponsored by the amazing Jason Wyman. Jason is an industry veteran, and their courses are the perfect place to learn all you need to know to make games at a professional level. From beginner to advanced, Jason will guide you through the process of mastering C# and Unity. With daily lessons, live support, and access to a private Discord channel where you can communicate and share ideas with other students, there's no better way to kickstart your game dev journey. I'm excited to announce that Jason is now offering the Vimlark bundle, where you can get access to not just one, but all 3 courses. The Programmer course will teach you all about C#. The Mastery course will deep dive into Unity and its tools, while the Architecture course guides you through the best practices to make an amazing gaming experience for you to work with and for your players to enjoy. As someone that's using Unity for the first time for my longer running project Monkeys with Guns, I'm starting from the ground up with this and it's been awesome so far. And the best part is all 3 of these courses are part of the Vimlark bundle for the price of 1. Plus, as an extra bonus, Jason is adding in an exclusive special edition monkey hoodie. It's really cool. This is the first time any merch has been made for any of my games. So if you want to learn how to make games with Unity, support me, and rock a sweet monkey on your chest, click the link down in the description to get started today. Alright, time to get rolling. I'm beginning with the basic starter template that I made for myself a while back that handles things like menus and scene transitions. This way I can make the games that I make for each time limit on a different scene, and just add buttons to the menus so you can play each of them in one place. I'm starting with a 10-minute game because I want to make sure that I can get a basic game loop built in that amount of time. Plus, it'll be fun to see how much more I can do with the increased time as we move on. The plan is to make a falling object game where the player's at the bottom of the screen and has to move left and right and catch objects as they fall for a higher score. That seemed like a fairly simple concept that I could pull off in this time period. Beginning was pretty stressful. I tried to calm down by breathing and stretching a little bit, but once I hit that timer, the madness was on and it was time to go. I started off like all of my projects I usually make by adding in a player box and a camera. I gave the player the ability to move left and right. Next up is to make the objects the player would collect. I made mine look like coins. I added a bullet and rotate behavior to it so it could fall from the top of the screen. And the rotate was there just to add a little bit more to it visually because I wasn't going to have much time for any juice or effects. I created a manager sprite to store information and added text HUD elements so the player can see the relevant information. And just like that, I only have a few minutes left, so it's time to start hooking everything up. The manager has a drop rate that tells the game how often to create coins and drop them from the top of the screen. When the player box collides with a coin, I destroy that coin and then add 1 to the score. At the same time, if the drop rate of the coins is not at its lowest setting, I decrease it a little bit so the coins spawn quicker, causing the difficulty to go up. To have a lose condition, I added a catcher sprite underneath the scene that will damage the player's health if it's hit by a coin that the player missed. I even added in a little screen shake when you take damage because you can't have a game without screen shake. I set up a check for when the player's health hits 0, it will reset everything and you just start over again. And that's pretty much all I was able to finish before we hit 0. Holy cow, 10 minutes is not a lot of time. And here's the playtest. It's passable and works, which is something for the time frame. As we collect the coins, the frequency in which they spawn increases, which does add a fair amount of difficulty. Although because the spawning is random across the width of the layout and there's no way to increase your health, at a certain point surviving becomes a bit more about luck. Sometimes there's just no way to get 2 coins that spawn too far apart from each other. But I was able to get a pretty decent score, and I'm glad that it does what it's supposed to. So I'm pretty happy because that's not too bad for 10 minutes. Next up is the 30-minute game, and after the 10-minute one, I was stressing a good amount. But I'm doing this all in the name of fun, so it's time to jump on in. No big surprise, but the first 10 minutes was mostly just me reproducing what I did in the last section to have the basic mechanics to build on top of. The first new addition is to have the game paused at the start, and then only begin when the player moves their catcher. Not having a reaction game immediately begin on load is usually a good thing in my opinion. I added a new text element to let the player know how to begin the game, and I would make it hide itself as soon as you started moving. But then I went to do a quick test and I realized none of my UI text was there. Turns out I forgot to update my parallax setting on my HUD layer, so it wasn't locking the positions where I wanted them, which means they were off screen. And of course, figuring this out wasted some of the preciously little time that I had. With that sorted, I tried to get a little bit fancier with the spawning by adding in a secondary item to fall. And of course, that didn't work right away either, wasting even more time on simple things that I mostly did right in the 10-minute round. Debugging in this kind of time crunch really sucks and adds a lot of anxiety. And it turns out the problem was an issue with building all three of these games in the same project. I was actually referencing the coin from the 10-minute game, not the 30-minute one, which is the one that I needed. It's my bad for making them look too similar and not double checking the names before I put stuff in. Once I spent way too long figuring that out, I added a heart collectible object as well. I wanted to mitigate losing health just because two things spawned on opposite sides and you weren't able to catch them at the same time. So I wanted to make it so you're able to recover some of your health at least during the game. This round really had me flustered. I wasted some time thinking I was going to be able to make a high score tracker, and then I abandoned it when it was clear that I just didn't have enough time to get everything set up the way I wanted. I realized with the time I had left, it would probably be better to add some more visual interest instead. So I did what everyone does when it's time to add some visual impact. Particles! To sell some of the impact, I made the player paddle flash and the screen shake a little bit when collecting objects. And in the last few minutes, I tried to make the sprites look a little bit better. I even did some animation on the coin, which wasn't quite right. It actually was only half of the animation, so it just looked like it bounced back and forth, but oops. At times up, here's what I was able to pull off in 30 minutes. It works decently well like the other one, there's just one problem. The game is now way too easy. Seriously, once I hit a score of around 400, I was bored and I just let myself die. I can't be 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure my difficulty balance is a little off here. But it functions, and it looks better than the 10-minute version. Having a couple of dumb bugs that ate up a bunch of time really didn't help either, but I definitely learned a bit of what I need to change for the final round. So let's see if that helps, or if I crash and burn with an unplayable mess. Either way, it should be fun. Starting off the hour timer, I definitely feel a bit less pressure on that opening 10 minutes this time, thankfully. I add most of the elements that I know I'm going to need, including a bomb item that will deal damage to the player if it hits the paddle, hopefully increasing the difficulty a little bit. Like before, I set up the dropping mechanics, but this time to not let it get crazy out of hand like it did in the 30-minute game. At certain score milestones, the game will change by either spawning more bombs or increasing the falling speed of the items. It was nice that with this amount of time, I felt more comfortable to actually test out the game a bit to make sure that I didn't have any issues like I did in round 2. And this time around, I was able to add in a high score that saves into local storage. That way a player can keep track of their best play and it will be there the next time they come back. Not that anyone would really come back to a game like this, but the feature's there. So with all the core mechanics in, it was time to make it not look quite so bleh. I reanimated the coin, this time more correctly so it looks like it's actually spinning. I added outlines because I like outlines on my sprites, it's a personal preference. But looking back, I probably should have skipped this because it took a fair amount of time to do. I dressed up the heart a little more, made it sway back and forth as it falls, and I made the bomb look a lot more interesting with a wick that's burning as well. With 10 minutes left, it was time to put in some particles and effects. I even made an explosion for the bomb when it hits the paddle because it was looking kind of bland when it hit and didn't do anything. Speaking of the paddle, it looks kind of dull, so I turned it into a treasure chest because it made more sense to collect coins with it. I tried to make an ocean background in the last few seconds to fit with this pirate theme that I was now doing, and sadly ran out of time before I could make it look any kind of decent. But the timer's up, and here is the result of my hour of panic. Overall, I think it looks okay. Nothing I'll be putting into my portfolio, but considering that all of the art was done within the same hour as all of the coding for the game, as well as making it all with the built-in Construct Sprite Editor, which I have to say is serviceable but not that amazing, I'll take it. Except the background, of course, I disavow that. The gameplay is much better now. The bombs and increased speed add a lot more challenge to keep the game from going on forever. In games about obtaining high scores like this, I try not to ever let the player's score get too high because it starts to become discouraging for the player to play again. You always want the player to end feeling like they could have done better, so that way they'll give it another go. So in the end, these are what I was able to make in 10 minutes, 30 minutes, and 60 minutes. The 10-minute game came out passable for something made in 10 minutes. The 30-minute game, I kind of consider a failure and really am not happy with. And the 60-minute game I think came out pretty well, and it looks decent for a 60-minute game. I had hoped to get some sort of sound effects into the 1-hour version, but I just couldn't pull it off here, unfortunately. If you think you could do better, or you just want to try this challenge out for yourself, you should go for it. It is a bit tiring and stressful, but it was a good amount of fun as well. Well, it's fun if you like this sort of thing. I mean, I liked it. If anybody does try this out, please let me know. I would love to see how others approach this type of challenge. If you'd like to try this game out, it's on my itch challenge page, which is different than my main itch page because I like to keep my challenge ones separate because they're not quite the same quality that I want to keep up on my main page. There's a direct link in the description if you'd like to try it out. Thank you all very much for watching, and an extra special shout out to my amazing Patreon supporters, especially Abishan, Clone13, Daniel Martin, David Scott, Nightfall, Kevin Halgau, Kirby, Kormai, Liam Sorta, MLK, Matzi Makes, Nazar Salim, Salty Pretzel, Scott Hansen, Soapy Gnome, and Straight Up Gruntled. You are all awesome people, and I really can't thank you enough for the support. Also, please be sure to check out the Vimlark bundle available from Jason Wyman. There's a link below to get all the courses plus a sweet monkey hoodie. If you want to see more game dev or just want to say hi, the best place to get in touch with me is over on my live stream at twitch.tv/Vimlark, or you can message me on Twitter or join the Discord with a lot of other really awesome people. I hope you're all healthy and safe wherever you are, and I will talk with you next time. Have a good one. Later.